Good evening. We're going to call to order the Building Board of Appeals tonight at 6 p.m. And the first thing that we need to accomplish is to call to order the roll call. Tina, could you help us with that?
Yes, Madam Chair. Place 1, Crum, absent. Place 2, Turner.
Here.
Place 3, Rod.
Here.
Place 4, Hollins.
Here.
Place 5, Vader.
Here.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. We will move forward tonight with our regular session by swearing in of any speakers.
Whomever wishes to speak tonight, could you please come forward so I can swear you in? Thank you. Please hold up your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony that you shall give to the board in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? They have been sworn in, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, tonight we have items for individual consideration, discussion, and action. First is the approval of the minutes from the March 6, 2025, specially called Building Board of Adjustment meeting. Have we reviewed those, and do I have a motion to move forward with acceptance?
I make a motion, we accept the minutes.
Thank you.
I second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Okay, that passes unanimously. The second item is BBA case 2501 to consider a city-initiated request for demolition or repair of a single-family dwelling located at 6713 Lindell Road, Oak Crest Addition, Block 9, Lot 24, City of Kennedale, Tarrant County, Texas.
Good evening. I just wanted to provide an update on this particular case from last month. And then just so the applicant's aware, I'll present my staff report. There'll be a opportunity for you to rebut anything or answer any questions. I'll come back, do a summary if needed, and then you guys, obviously, you'll get the last word just like last time. Okay. And also, I want to say thank you for being here, but for being very cordial, polite, and respectful always to our staff when they met with you, when I've met with you. So I do appreciate that. I know it takes time from work to get these matters resolved, but I wanted to thank you publicly. Okay. As you recall, we're here for a substandard building case. Since we met last, I wanted to give you an update, and I provided you a staff report that kind of lays out some items in detail. It's got some updated photos. I also want to state that it's not my intention to paint the applicant or property owner in any negative light or to embarrass or anything like that. You know, last time we met, we discussed several of the challenges personally and physically on the site. And so it's simply to provide you with just an accurate update and depiction of kind of what we observed and what exists there now that we were able to perform an inspection of the interior. So before we had, we've never been able to inspect the interior. Even when requested, we were respectful for that. We didn't go obtain any administrative search warrants to perform anything like that. We've simply been working with the leeway or the avenues that they've provided and working within that realm. So again, we want to thank them for the opportunity that they offered last time for us, the city, to perform an inspection. On March 17th, your building inspector, Todd Ellerbrook, he was able to coordinate with the property owner, Amber and James, on a site inspection. He was able to go through the property with them. He didn't spend much time there. It was about 20, 30 minutes is what he told me. Now, on that particular date, I wasn't in the office. And so at my request, I wanted to actually be there again. And so I coordinated a separate time with Amber and James to perform an inspection while I was present as well. But when I got back, I asked I had tasked him with, hey, we need to work out our schedules, we need to work out a time frame. And so he was successful in doing that. I just wasn't in the office that day. So when I came back, I asked for an update. What'd you see? How'd it go? He did mention it was very, it wasn't sanitary inside. It was difficult to move around, to navigate in there. He did see, exposed electrical, things that we discussed last time, light fixtures. He had some concerns, but in his opinion, he did confirm that it was a substandard living conditions, essentially on the interior. No photographs were taken on that particular date. So that was another reason why I wanted to perform an inspection and be present with that so that we could document that, both for everybody here, but in particularly for the board to see that. So on April 2nd, I met with Amber on that follow-up inspection. Todd was with me as well. We also had Corporal Demore with the police department. Amber was present there. And if you recall the other gentleman that was here last time, Derek Hall, he's kind of an advocate for that part of town, a good neighbor to everybody in that area. So he was present as well. James was not present at that time. According to Amber, he was down the road cutting grass. But we were able to, she was in care, custody, control of the property and gave us her consent to perform our inspection. Also asked if I could photograph it. She said that was fine. So we went ahead and photographed as we went. Rather than just reading the staff report, I kind of want to just describe first the layout of the property, and then just kind of get into some of the things that I observed. So the layout of the property, in your mind's eye, if you can imagine walking up to just a two-bedroom home, built in the 40s, 42. So you walk up, and there are up some stairs it's a pier beam home. And when you enter the home, you're into the living room. And right on the other side of the living room is the kitchen. Off of the kitchen, you got a back door, kind of leads into a back area. But all the bedrooms are, if I'm not mistaken, they're going to be to your right. So when we walked in, photographed, as we walked in the front gate, the findings that you see kind of on the exterior, I think that was probably, I don't recall the last time I was on the property, but I do remember what I saw last time I was on the property, and that front area had been basically cleared out for the most part. Still had some items, but it was not the same front yard that I observed. There was actually more things. So I confirmed that the exterior had in fact reverted to that original condition when we started the case. As we walk in, the subfloor, that's all you're walking on essentially for most of the home is just the subfloor. It is buckled in some areas. I think they've mentioned some foundation problems and the repairs or attempted repairs previously where they had to jack up the home. So that probably is contributing to a lot of the unsettling or the buckling of the subfloor itself. And that's in the living room. And the living room was kind of just filled with personal items. It was difficult to walk through. The whole home was dark. I didn't observe any working fixtures or lights. There's no service to the home. I did confirm, because in a previous staff report, I noted that my concern was that the generator could have been spliced into the building wire to operate the home. That's not the case here, so I was able to confirm that. When you walk in there, floors were not sound, in good repair. As I mentioned, the wall paneling kind of throughout is comprised of a mix of materials. So there's old like OSB, plywood paneling, wood paneling. In one area, you got sheetrock, but in a lot of the wall assemblies, you have gaps. So if you imagine if someone's framing up a home today, they would put plywood or OSB or some sort of covering, and they would then put tape in bed. If they're going to put sheetrock or something like that in the home, in several areas, you can almost kind of see through the wall because there's not a lot of, it's very thin paneling. That's in the living room, and again throughout the kitchen, throughout the home. In the kitchen itself was difficult to navigate as well, based on the amount of items that are on the counters and in the walkway itself. Todd did report that he was present on this second visit, that to navigate the home was a lot better than his first one. So they had made some attempts to kind of clear paths through the home. So I want to make note of that. The your surfaces were not sanitary. It was evident. We did observe infestation of flies, gnats, and fleas. I'll say we had a lot of things jumping off of us. I actually got bit by one in there, but there are dogs in there, so it's something that's common in code compliance and law enforcement. It's things that we run into. So I didn't see an infestation of roaches, nor was I looking for one. I didn't want to spend a lot of time kind of moving things around to investigate that. But so that aside of the unsanitary conditions that were there in the kitchen, you couldn't get to the stove, you couldn't get to the sink, which is a plumbing fixture, right? Don't believe there's any running water to that fixture. Couldn't, without having to remove a large amount of personal items, I couldn't get to those fixtures to test them. I couldn't get to the restroom to see what the conditions was, because that's where they had pinned up a dog, so we didn't want to go in there. Out of the back room, off of the kitchen, out that back door is kind of a lean-to area that they mentioned before that was going to be torn off the house, and I've included some photos of that particular area. That area, your roof assembly there has failed. It is compromised. It is failing. There's exposed electrical. The whole home is essentially open to the elements. It is not weather tight. One of the concerns I had for myself and staff really were when looking at the ceiling. It shows signs of weathering, water damage, dampness, I would say. Didn't touch it or anything like that. It looked like it had been occurring for some time. And given the roof condition of the roof, that was expected. But the concern I have with that isn't just the constructability of it, is mold and other things that is an environment for. So it's not a place that we wanted to spend so much time in. On our follow-up inspection, if we go back in there, or any other inspectors that go back in there, I probably recommend that they take a respirator. That's my, it's just for PPE for safety on that. So again, that's the two spaces there, living room, kitchen, back area. In the bedrooms to the, I guess it would be the south. As you go down the right, you go down the hallway, there's two bedrooms on either side of the hallway. The left one is that room that has that large opening from the exterior. I think there was either plans to put a window in there or maybe a sliding door. It's larger than a normal window size, so that makes me thinking it's probably about the size of a screen door or a sliding door. But in that room, the subfloor was missing in areas. There's large gaps is what I mean on the floor. And that area had a lot of foundation work that had been done. But a lot of the paneling didn't appear to be secured or fastened. In fact, previous visits, there wasn't anything in that room. So it looked like they'd come in and put down some temporary flooring, but it's not fastened. And then it's being reoccupied with personal items. But you could trip hazards, things like that. Were present. In the bedroom itself, that was the one room that actually had some sheetrock, had cracks in it, which was expected. Again, I saw exposed electrical in that particular area. That's the bedroom where there is a window unit there that is assumably powered by the generator on the other side of the window. But overall, the home, I found it to be unsanitary and not suitable or unfit for human habitation. It was sort of a textbook example of that. The staff report again outlines a variety of things in specific areas. I did take a closer look at the foundation work that had been done before. I included some updated photos of that foundation, or those beams, those girders, the piers that the crew had come and set those on. And typically when you see a concrete pier, it's normally flush at the top. It's not uncommon to have shims or pieces of material to get it to touch the bearing of the structural component. But when the pier itself is damaged and to a point where you can't get a level on it, I saw several piers that were like that. So that tells me that the piers that they used were damaged. I don't think they were damaged in the afterward. I think they used just bad piers to set them on. And then they attempted to shim it. And then, when they had the house jacked up, they lowered the house to sit on that. So at least they have a resting. But if your shims and your pier is not flat and it kind of does a crown, you're going to get that wobbling effect. And then how to fasten it is the question. On a lot of the joists and the girders weren't fastened correctly. And in fact, at the attachment point where they did a toenail, what a toenail is, if I have a beam or a joist and another member here, which could be a beam, and I fasten it this way, right? That's considered a face nail. A toenail is where you come in at this angle and you come in at an angle and you kind of hit it that way. And the code requires a certain amount of fasteners per attachment. The ones that were there didn't make positive connection to that member. In fact, they had missed or splintered. So you have several areas where those required structural attachments are not being met at all. Can it be repaired? Likely. But there's going to be substantial work that'll still need to be done on that foundation, in my opinion. And then I would require an engineer to come through to verify that afterward that it met that design. Now, that particular permit that we had for the foundation had an engineer seal on it. He's the engineer of record. He can be contacted to come out and evaluate it once the job is done, or recommend a method of repair. Or he may say, you guys didn't follow my design at all, I'm out, right? Because that happens. But that's the concern I had with the structural components. Provided you some updated photos on that. There were some updated photos on the roof assembly that we provided. But I did ask for an update on where their plans are as far as plan of action, permits. And to date, I haven't received a permit application, a request to renew an application. I don't have any updates on the things that I believe they were required to provide. Last time we met, I don't have a detailed construction schedule. And I believe the focus right now is trying to remove some of that rubbish or discarded stuff on the exterior, which we welcome. But it's the rubbish itself is just another area that needs to be worked on. The structure itself is why we brought this case before the board. And so the recommendation that we have on it, I provided you a copy of the ordinance that talks about how much time the board can issue somebody to remedy a problem such as this. And it gives you two options in section 1552-52, parenthetical 3 and 4 describes those two thresholds. So the first one, it says here, the board may not allow the owner, lien holder, mortgagee more than 90 days to repair, remove, or demolish the building or fully perform all the work to comply with the order unless the owner submits a detailed plan, time schedule for the work at the hearing, okay, and establishes at the hearing that the work cannot be reasonably done or reasonably completed within 90 days because of the scope and complexity of the work, right? So that's what they would need to, what we're saying they need to provide you, and it can't exceed 90 days. Now, if the board allows that owner more than 90 days to complete any repair work required to repair, remove, or demolish the building, the board shall require the owner to submit regular progress reports to the building official that demonstrates that the owner has complied with the time schedules established for the commencement and performance of the work. The order may require the owner, lien holder, mortgagee to appear before the board, come back and give you updates, essentially. So those are the two thresholds. Our position is parenthetical 3 is on our recommendation is that given the condition of the interior of the home, the exterior of the premises, we recommend again that the board deem this property substandard and unfit for human habitation and issue an order to vacate. We do further recommend that the board issue an order to have the property demolished within 60 days if the property is not brought into full compliance. So why are we recommending that? Because we're asking for 60 additional days plus the 30 that they've had to exhaust that parenthetical 3, which is that full 90 days that we discussed last time. And so that's our recommendation. And then at this point, I'll happy to hand it over to the property owner for rebuttal updates. Thank you.
Thank you. Amber?
Good evening. As Nathan stated, we have been working on the outside of the house more so than the inside. I needed to clear some areas so that the contractors could come in. I've had, I think it's 8 different contractors come this month, and the challenge that I'm finding is I had 3 of the foundation companies that came out that wouldn't touch it because they won't follow somebody else's work. They didn't want to have to be liable for the work that was already done, which I understand. And the roofing guys, I have quotes from 2 of them, and then the other 3 want a structural engineer to come out because of the issue with the foundation. So they just want to make sure that it's okay to move forward with the roof prior to doing foundation work. Because, I mean, obviously, whenever you move the foundation, the roof's going to move. So they don't want to do the roof and then the foundation shift or something, right? So they're supposed to be getting back to me on the structural engineer coming out. I haven't heard back just yet, but they said it would be either this week or next. So that's where we're at with that. I had an electrician that I was working with, and whenever I spoke to Nathan, he was concerned about the brand of fuse box that was in there, the federal fuse boxes. He said they are a fire hazard and they have a lot of issues, so he wanted to verify that it wasn't that, and it was not. And so the electrician that I had worked with, his plan was to come in and just put in the outlets and the light fixtures, light switches, make sure all of those were fresh and everything. I believe he said all of the breakers were good. I don't think there was a main, so he was going to have to add in a main breaker, I guess, that shuts off everything, and then hook it to service. But after speaking with Nathan told me that the entire house would need to be rewired because there was foundation work that was done. And whenever I spoke to the electrician, he backed out and said, I don't want to touch this. It seems like the city is very involved in this, and I don't know why they're wanting you to redo the entire electrical. I told him that I didn't know. I said, what I was told is that whenever the foundation moved, things inside the wall could have moved, and he said that something could have touched a wire, and he said that's why it's coated in Romex. I guess the plastic coating that's around the wiring or what have you. But because of what seemed like extra obstacles, my electrician backed out, so I have to find another electrician and figure out where to move from there. We have been working inside the house as well, like you said, to clear some more paths through there. There is a lot of items that we're going through. In the past month, we've taken probably a total of 15 loads to either the dump or the scrapyard, trying to get stuff out of the house and the yard so that people can move around. And we've actually been working with our new trash service, that Frontier service, to help pick up a little bit extra also. So that's been very helpful. So as of today, do I have permits? No. I was fortunate, I think, to finally get a hold of that original foundation company Monday, and he's supposed to be coming up here Friday, but I tried calling him yesterday just to confirm, and I couldn't get a hold of him again. So I'm not exactly holding my breath waiting on him, but that's what he states. So that's all the updates I have. Were there any questions that I need to answer?
I have one question for you. You heard everything that Nathan presented, and thank you so much for being open to letting them come in and in the process. Have you read that report that he gave tonight from the last minutes, or is there anything that he said tonight that you disagree with?
No, I don't disagree. I mean, like I said before, the house isn't necessarily anybody would want to live, but it's where he's been living. It's not somewhere I enjoy being, right? But I don't think the house is going to crumble around me or anything like that. So.
Do we have any other questions tonight? Patrick?
I have a question for Nathan, if you don't mind. What prompted your approach to rewiring the entire house after the foundation was?
So I'd like to clarify that. So what I spoke about and what she said her electrician recommended is the same thing. When he's talking about fresh outlets, fresh wiring, things like that, that's what I'm asking for. So that exterior panel, I have concerns that it's not weather tight. On the bus bars themselves, they seem to be rusted out. The breakers themselves may still be functional, but what I'm talking about is that if all that he's going to do is come in and just replace the service panel and not do anything on the inside with new wire essentially run, Romex or type N cable to a fixture, to an outlet, then when that panel gets energized, anything that's connected to that is a hazard, because we have confirmed in all over the homes, there are exposed electricals, outlets, or the wiring, the fixtures are not present. And so when I mentioned about the walls themselves with the shifting, there is a potential that you could have, and over time, the home or the interior of the home has been pieced together with just various building materials. And back in 1942, whenever the home was wired, I can see areas where there's a covering on the Romex there, and that serves as a protective covering. But if you have that in a wall assembly and you throw a piece of plywood in there and you don't have nail guards, that covering ain't going to do anything to a nail that's sticking in there. So the concerns I have was, okay, I need to talk with, my request was I need to talk with your electrician and see what they recommend, because I have a concern, if all his scope is to just come out, take her money, replace the panel, and call Encore and say, hey, the city just doesn't want to give you power. That's not what we're saying, and that's my concern, that's all it would be. So I want to have a conversation with the electrician to actually find out what he recommends, because in the bedrooms and the living rooms, there's outlets in there that could be exposed to verify that we don't have any damaged wiring, because I did see some damaged wiring in there. So my concern again is replacing, energizing the panel, not knowing what the conditions are. I don't know. There's two things. The contractor's going to have to navigate the interior conditions to perform the work, and then a staff member or inspector is going to have to navigate the interior conditions to perform the inspection. And given the condition of the interior, I don't recommend that be done lightly or without any proper PPE, is what I'm saying. There's other things that are airborne that you can encounter in a home at this condition that you can't see and you can inhale, and that's a concern, critters and things like that, right? So we have confirmed there's infestations, but that's the gist of the electrical. I'm not saying she has to rewire the whole thing. What she said he recommended sounds like a rewire anyway. Like he's concerned is like, I'm going to run a new branch circuit into this room with new outlets, a new light. That's essentially a rewire, right? Does it have to be done everywhere? I mean, we can give me one or two and disconnect everything else to make sure it doesn't get energized. Like there's things we can do to go about that, but I haven't spoken with this electrician.
Okay, thank you, Nathan. Now, may I ask you another question real quickly? Is your impression the electrician was just going to energize the house without replacing plugs and light fixtures in other locations?
He was going to replace the physical outlets and switches and stuff, not the runs to it.
But not the entire house, just certain locations where now the result of not having that done could be, this would make this whole exercise moot when that place burns down, when you turn the electricity on, okay? That's what I'm saying, is that, you know, if you don't have it done properly, and you don't enter, and he turns the electricity on, he can burn the house down. And the result is exactly what we're deciding to do tonight. The house is gone. So,
I would assume that there's a way to tell if there's a short in a wire. I have no clue on that, but I would assume so. I would have to ask an electrician on that one.
so we don't have a structural engineer yet.
No, those three roofers are supposed to be finding someone to come out to look.
And you don't have an electrician that's working with you right now.
Right.
Okay. You're putting this board in a real tough situation. I understand what you're up against, but it's, this is the worst thing for us. I want you to understand that, because we don't want to do this to anybody, but this does not sound like a safe situation to me at all for anybody. So, thank you. And that's all I got.
James, would you like to speak this evening? Thank
Yes, ma'am, I do.
you. Bet.
Nathan's talking about it being substandard. The place that is substandard was a garage that was added on to the house. And I can take any of y'all out there, you can walk through my house, you can jump up and down on the floors, there's no give to it. There's no give to the walls. Yeah, you can see a little light underneath it from where the foundation people did it. But it's not going nowhere. It stands up in all this wind and stuff we've had, you know? And yeah, the back room that he's talking about, I understand what he's talking about. Yeah, I got windows for that room, for the whole house in the backyard. I just haven't had time to put them in yet. You know, because I'm trying to work a job and trying to do what Nathan wants done. I'm 61 years old. It's not easy.
Right.
And the people that say they're going to help me, yeah, they come and they sit around. They don't do nothing. So we've been running them off. And then I got to deal with the homeless that come out there at night, sitting out in front of my house, lighting fires. Me and Amber both has run all them off, more than once. But I'm doing what I can. It's not substandard. I wish y'all just come out there and walk through the house. Yeah, it's cluttered. I'm working on getting the clutter out. And the reason he couldn't get over and turn the water on is because when they raised my house up, they broke one of the pipes. And I got to get up in the attic and find where that pipe is that's broke. And once I find it, then I can fix it, and the bathroom and the kitchen will be working. Do I get water? Yeah, I go down to the machines. I pay $1 for 5 gallons of water. You know, I normally take 5 or 6 of them jugs up there. That's why I have water. But I do have running water outside at a spigot. I just put a valve on the other side of it so I can shut the house off. But I do have running water there. And like right now, I got a friend of mine over there and my ex-brother-in-law that's working on trying to get my furniture that was out front of the yard, which I know you don't like that. But it's all inside the yard and they're trying to get it into the house. I got the cabinets to go into the kitchen. I just got to get time and help to do it. You know, Nathan done told me, I asked him about permits for putting cabinets and stuff up. He says, I don't have to have that. Just for the the structural, I got to have permits for. And I used to build houses. I can shoot the grade. I can build this building here. I've shot the grades. I've come in, leveled the properties, and I've built these buildings. Matter of fact, the old Dreamers, the log cabins that was up there, me and her dad built them cabins. You know, and then they sat vacant for years before anything happened to them. But they never fell down. You know?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
When was the foundation work done? When did you have this person out to work on your foundation that did all this work?
It was last year, last summer. Yeah.
So it's been over almost a year.
Yeah.
Okay. So you understand that you've had a rather substantial amount of time to do some of these things that,
Well, we didn't know that it wasn't right until Nathan come back out. And that was when? You come out there and you said the foundation wasn't right? Was it last year or after the first? Fall. It was the fall of last year when he come out. And we've been trying to get a hold of that guy ever since. He's supposed to have a lifetime warranty on it.
I first want to say that to the owner of the property, Amber, I recognize that you have been faced with an impossible situation and that you are trying to do the best that you can. I think everyone up here recognizes that. We also recognize that you are trying to take care of a family member the best that you can. We recognize that this is a very difficult situation. Nathan, can I ask you a question real quick?
Absolutely.
Can you please repeat for us what the city is requesting tonight? You had mentioned 60 days.
So our recommendation, and again, it's the board's prerogative, is that you issue an order to vacate or deem the property, excuse me, let me restart, is that our recommendation that the board deem the property substandard and unfit for human habitation and issue an order to vacate. Furthermore, we're asking that you issue an order to have the property demolished within 60 days if the property is not brought into full compliance.
So I would like to ask a question on that. So if this went through, the owner of the property would have 60 days to get permits and get everything up to par, or to just have the permits and the contractors hired?
They'd have to bring the property into compliance within 60 days. So have the permits, have the work that's done. That's our recommendation. Now, the order, if an order were to be issued today to have it done within 60 days, we would come back to the board at that time and say, the 60 days that you've ordered have elapsed. We're going to ask that you issue an order for it to be demolished at that point. Our request today is to provide them 60 days to bring the property into compliance or have the property demolished.
And during that 60 days, we would have at least one meeting. Would there be an update during that, at that 30-day mark?
Correct. So what I would recommend is that we meet again next month at our meeting date, because again, the board just meets as needed. This is needed. So to meet again in 30 days for them to provide an update on the way to that 60 days so that you have an idea of where they're at in this next 30 days. Again, we've had 30 days and then that's now, that doesn't include the 2 years that we've had this thing go
Yes, sir.
on it. But I recognize that there's been some challenges, but we're asking again for property to be brought into full compliance within 60 days or have the property demolished. We'll come back and request that because there's a bunch of postings that we have to do. And like I mentioned to them before, any decision that the board makes, they have 10 days to appeal that with district court. So that's today, that was last time, today, in the next 30 days. But next 30 days, we want to have another meeting just to provide an update. just
Okay,
like tonight.
and is the order to vacate at the end of that 60 days, or is it today?
I'm requesting that you issue an order to vacate the property.
Today.
Because, again, after going through, our position is that it's unfit for human habitation.
Yes, sir. I just want to make sure I understood
Absolutely.
what
It'd
the
be the
ask
board's
is.
prerogative if they want to issue that order.
Quick question, I think, to you, Nathan. It looks like through some of the documentation, we've had a lot of fines and citations. How does that get managed?
So to date, believe there were fines that we assessed last year. They were put on a payment plan to resolve that. We haven't issued any more citations. And even at the start of this hearing, our intentions were, the citations just haven't worked to bring the property into compliance. It's allowed them some appointments to come before the court, or just like this body, but we're still not seeing it accomplished through that method. So this was our last result, is to come. We do recommend that if they are going to take the time to do this right, that they really need some roll-off dumpsters and things they just need crews and equipment to go and haul that stuff off. Because every time that we've been there, they've had people there scrap and picking, they're being very, very selective. So we're just not seeing, a roll-off dumpster dropped off. There's been trailers, they've worked with their network to get a trailer here and there, but they really could benefit from a couple roll-off dumpsters for that. Now, the city has the ability to get roll-off dumpsters, but if we use money to do that, then they get invoiced because it's taxpayer money. And we're trying to avoid that. It is something that we've discussed many times before. We may be at that option to do that. If our preference would be for them to remove those things to get to the house to do these repairs, and they decide what goes and what stays. If we do it, first, I'm not just gonna get a roll-off dumpster and get it crewed with a backhoe. I'm gonna go to the court and get basically a warrant to seize that stuff because it is private property. So if I'm gonna go that route, at that point, I'm looking at having to probably invoice them on the recoup for that. So my decision is, or my preference would be for them to make those decisions. I hope I answered everyone's questions.
Quick one. James, remember you said that, James, I think you said you have some folks maybe living outside your home? In
No,
the street, some homeless?
yeah, they're staying in those tunnels across the street from my house.
Okay,
The police officers have been trying to keep them out of there. They've been giving them trespass things, but they're not there all the time.
right.
These people, they come in and out. They know when the cops come around and when they don't. They sit there, they watch. And on the vacate order he's talking about, if y'all put that order in, y'all can kiss my house goodbye because they're going to go in there, they're going to tear everything up. They're going to rip out the wiring. They're going to rip out whatever they can, and they're going to trash it even worse than what it is. And I don't want to go to jail for shooting somebody for being on my property. And if they're in there doing that, then that's what's going to happen. Because if I go, my dogs ain't going to be there because they got to go with me. And the dogs is what's keeping everybody out right now.
Gotcha. Well, is there anything that Nathan's brought up tonight that you don't agree with?
Yeah, I don't think it's substandard
Okay,
because the house is solid. It's all ship deck. It's hardwood floors. The only one that's not hardwood is where they added on the garage, and most of that's hardwood. And the kitchen. The kitchen's plywood floor.
okay,
The wiring. My stepdad had that house rewired right before my mom died in '99, so it ain't from '42, and it is Romax.
okay.
And the box has been updated since then.
Okay, Ed, do you have?
As I understand it, though, currently, you have no electricity to the house. I mean, not counting.
I don't- I
and
really don't
Okay,
want-
nor do you have plumbing.
Yes, I
correct?
got plumbing.
You do have plumbing. You have running water.
Yes, I got running water. I just got a pipe that's broken from when they leveled the house. I got to get up in the attic and find it. I don't normally get off work until after dark.
Do what now?
I said, I normally don't get off work till after dark,
Yeah.
and the only reason I'm here today is
Well-
because I took off today.
Well, the definition of a substandard house is a house that probably doesn't have electricity, for number one. So there's some issues there about
That's good on
what's
that.
considered substandard in the city's mind and yours, and I recognize that. It's your
Can I
home.
say one thing about that?
Yes, sir.
Electricity's a luxury. It's not a necessity. Not for me. Mormons don't have it. Those people don't have it. Y'all don't make them get it because it's against their religion. My religion is, I don't like them bills. They sent me a bill for $700 for 1 month and I didn't have nothing running. I was out of state working. That's ridiculous. It's like they're trying to charge me for sewer that I don't have. I have a septic tank. But yet they're trying to charge me for sewer. And I think you went and got that straightened out for me. We had a good well in that neighborhood. I don't know why Kennedale closed it down. I think they didn't want to replace the pumps, what it was. So, like I said, I've been there for 50 years. And I've watched this thing change since Kennedale's taken it over. I've watched houses burn since Kennedale's taken it over, and they just stand back and they watch it. They say, oh, we got to wait for an electrician to get out here and cut the power off. Why? It's already off. You know, they've been trying for 20 years to get me off that land. For 20 years, they've been trying to get me off that land. Yeah, I know that I have a problem hoarding. And a lot of the stuff I got there right now is going to the flea market. And the stuff you were talking about out front is wood that I've gotten for the house and stuff they made me take out of the house to level it. I just ain't put it back in yet because I don't want to have to take it right back out for them to come in and level it again. So, and I do have it tarped up.
No, I don't think so. Thank you.
Okay, Board, we've heard both the city and the property owner in Inhabitant here tonight. Do we have any discussion, or do we have a desire for the board to move forward with the motion? And I will read again the city ordinance. The board may not allow the owner, lien holder, or mortgagee more than 90 days to repair, remove, or demolish the building or fully perform all work required to comply with the order unless the owner, lien holder, or mortgagee submits a detailed plan with schedule for the work at the hearings and establishes at the hearing any of the work that cannot be reasonably done in 90 days. And we do know, as a matter of fact, that we gave 30 days from the last meeting. So that's where we sit today. Did I summarize that? Absolutely.
Nathan, if you'd be so kind as to remind us, if you remember, we made a motion last session. It's pretty specific. Remind me, if you remember, the details of the timeline and what needed to be accomplished in the first 30 days.
So if I recall correctly, the order was that they presented an approved plan by the city within 30 days and secure all permits in order to have the property so that the repairs could be made. I think a caveat to that, I believe, was like a detailed schedule or schedule of when those repairs needed to be made that couldn't be done within that 30 days. But that was the order last time, was to provide the city, obtain all the permits and provide a plan. And to date, unfortunately, we don't have either.
Don't have either. Thank you.
Okay. Do I have a motion on the table?
I will make, are you going to make it? I'll make a motion that this board deem this property substandard in order and issue an order to vacate. Also to order the property to be demolished if not brought into compliance within the next 60 days. Nathan, does that cover it? Okay. I don't do that without a lot of reservations and heartache, but I feel like it needs to be done. So there's my motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor? Is there any opposition tonight? Okay, the motion has been passed as stated by Mr. Turner, that the property be deemed substandard. There'll be an order to vacate, and that they'll have 60 days before demolition. Is there anything that needs to be corrected in that statement? Okay. All right. Second, have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor? Good night. All right. Yes, sir. We are closing this meeting at 6:50.